welcome to Faith-Filled Investing, the podcast where faith and real estate intersect. Join host Owen Cooper as he interviews real estate investors who are also strong believers in Jesus. Get inspired by their stories and discover how they live out their faith in the workplace. Learn practical tips and strategies for successful real estate investing. Whether you're a seasoned investor or exploring alternative ways to grow your wealth, this podcast will motivate, educate, and connect you with like-minded Christians in the real estate industry. Tune in to Faith-Filled Investing and join the movement of faith-driven real estate investors.
All right, well, welcome to Faith-Filled Investing. I'm your host, Owen Cooper, and this week we'll be hearing from Jacob Sheets to learn about his faith journey, his real estate journey, and how those two have intersected. So, Jacob, thanks for being my first guest ever on my podcast. So glad to have you here. It's always fun to work with you.
Yeah, likewise, Owen. Thank you for having me and for your consistent business with me in the past few years as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and when you get business from me, we're both happy. So,
Yep.
So we're gonna try and keep that trend going. Can you just share a little bit? I have some stories, but from you, what's our history like? How do we know each other, and how did this all get started between us two?
It's always fun to see everyone's different perspectives, right?
Right.
I remember the last time we went through this, I think that yours was slightly different than mine, which was a lot of fun. But
Well, I'll tell my story, my version next. So you just
yeah,
don't worry.
that's good. Yeah, but our background, so, I mean, I grew up in Cedarburg, Wisconsin, and then went to school at UW-Whitewater, so moved into that area, and I knew Owen as a pastor, that's right in one of the churches downtown Whitewater, and I was considering potentially becoming a pastor as an option. I was in kind of investigating that, and went over to him to consider interning with him, and then ended up interning at a different church. But which was fun, which is good. But I mean, throughout that process, I mean, we became very, very close friends, and one of the things that I'm sure will come up as a motif later on too is just like unity in the church, and not just one church, like the chapel or whatever, like not just one location, but like the body of believers that would call Jesus, as our Lord and Savior, and like that unity that's there. And just because I didn't do an internship with Owen didn't mean that I was now shunned forever, right? It was just like we had really good relationship from that beyond and going forward. And that's, I mean, I'm sure, Owen, you'll be able to touch on this, like when that intersected your investing journey of when you got started. But after I graduated in 2018, then ended up going into banking for about a year. And then I was driving about an hour, commute to and from work every single day. And I was listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast of on real estate investing, kind of self-educated myself into the ability to jump into my first duplex. Got that in Fort Atkinson, right when my wife graduated. We got married when we were both 20, between our sophomore and junior year of college, and she finished up school shortly after that. We got our first duplex, and we're owner occupying the lower, renting out the upper. And I was triple dipping in real estate, where I was listening to the podcast both ways, and then I would, be putting in carpet and painting walls while taking my online realtor course.
Wow.
So I was kind of doing all that all at once. And then after I got my license and got my first rent check for the upper, I was like, I literally thought to myself, like, is this legal? Like, am I allowed to do this? Like, I could just get rent check. All right, cool. But I thought that, and then almost immediately after that, put in the notice at my work and called up a real estate team, a top producing team at the time was eXp Realty, the Joe Ferraro real estate team. And I still have the best relationships with the people there to this day. A lot of times when you leave either teams or brokerages or issues, like sometimes stuff blows up and people like burn bridges, and I could not have a better experience with that team. I'm still a family with them. I still talk to them and have referral deals all the time with them. But anyway, I put that little plug in there because then that's when I got started. And my first niche was in that small multifamily owner occupied duplex, helping people house hack, get financial freedom. And the goal was like, I'm going to fund my real estate investing through being a realtor. And then I accidentally fell in love with being a realtor, right? So I was like, yeah, that's the thing. That's where it's at. It just really fit well for my personality and everything, which then kind of fueled my goals to be in the Realtor magazine 30 under 30, which is what kind of one of the big professional things that I'm pushing for until I either get it or turn 30, one of the two. Um, and that, I mean, when I started that journey of being a realtor, then I got involved with the Madison RIA Real Estate Investment Association, a Bigger Pockets meetup locally in Madison. And then as I was doing some of that stuff too, Owen, I think in that timeline is when he reached out to me and we did our first couple of deals together for flips. And then, yeah, ended up moving closer to Milwaukee, but we still stayed in touch. And Owen and I still do business, even though we, live maybe an hour and a half away from each other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's kind of crazy because a lot of my investing market is closer to where you live, but most of the deals that we've done together are closer to where I live. So
Yes.
I can't explain that. But I will say, if we're giving shameless plugs, I give a shameless plug to you because like I work I work with lots of different realtors. I've reached out to different people, and and you're just well, I shouldn't say this in publicly, but who cares? You're my favorite realtor to work with, so all other realtors hate me, but they're fine. But I always call you first, and I'm like, hey, do you want to take this on, or is this your area, or whatnot? And it's just good. One, I trust you. You're a man of integrity, but also you're fun to work with, and that's important to me because if you're not having fun, it's kind of drags pretty quick. Yeah. So
And you get to choose at all, like, even in your W-2 jobs, right? People believe they don't get to choose who they get to work with, right? But like you honestly do every single day you decide to get up and go to work or do what you're doing, you're making a conscious decision to continue doing what you're doing, be working there and
yeah,
working with those people. So like that's the same thing in my process of like I'm going to work with people. I would rather drive an hour, to work with people I know, like, and trust regardless of price point,
yeah,
um, than work in my backyard with someone who will constantly not take my advice, will constantly question me and make me try to reprove my worth over and over again.
yeah.
It's just not worth it, and it's much better to align with you. And like this can be a stressful job because it's with a lot of money.
Right,
It's with
right.
houses. There's a lot of money involved on everyone's end, and a lot of emotions and stress that gets tied to that. But like, it doesn't mean it can't be enjoyable and it can't be fun too. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's a good point.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. So I'm not gonna retell that whole thing. I love that perspective. First of all, I want to say I love that like my whole kind of theme of this podcast is how faith and investing fit together, and I love even your timeline. Like they're not two separate things. The key thing from the ministry I work with, one of the phrases we use all the time that I've just like grabbed a hold on is that work and ministry are one. They're the same thing, and there's not like, oh, I'm going to do my work job and then I'm going to go over here and do ministry. And that's part of what inspired me to want to start this podcast, and I think you resonate with that as well.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned getting a 30 under 30. I do know that you have gotten on the front cover of a magazine. So which remind me which one that was, because you graciously gave me a copy of it so I could have it.
Just a reminder, Owen. Look at my. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
Um, yeah. So in the past, and remind me to come back later so I don't forget, because when you were talking about the youth ministry that I was doing and how that and the difference of like being in faith in our workplace versus being in faith in a church and all that and how that's different. Just remind me to talk about that later because I'll probably forget. But like a really big point came in my brain. But
Good.
um, it was the Real Producers magazine. They have that for different markets, like the Milwaukee Real Producer magazine. I was featured with them in 2021 as on the Rising Star, um, publication, and then they also did a Real Producer 40 under 40. So that was
Nice.
another one that I was on and featured in that community. So I was featured in that one twice.
Wow. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Were you
thank you.
were you like kind of like, hey, I'm still under 30. Don't put me on that under 40 list.
No, 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 no. A real quick thought behind that is like obviously how hard you're working and how you serve people is a big part of this business, but a lot of it is also who you know. And like I was introduced to just the right people that are, i- in charge of the Real Producer magazine, that are in charge of a
Mhm.
handful of other things like in the community, the Milwaukee surrounding area. And like I was able to then have an introduction to them, to talk to them for a half an hour. I never asked, I never applied for that stuff. Like that was like it was given to me. Like I just built a really strong relationship, and they were really impressed by both the vision I have for the future, but the integrity that I have, and like what I choose to stand for is very different than a lot of like, very countercultural than like the real estate world of like how can I do the most amount of deals possible and how can I make the most money,
Yeah.
and maximize every single second of my time. And that's not always what I do. Like I like to still do some of those things, but it's not like my core why and like my number one guiding light. There's a lot of
Yeah.
other things in my business that are more important than that. And they
Yeah.
liked that and then featured me for it. So like getting in
Yeah.
front of the right people, but then also like just being true to who you are and who you're standing for and the faith that you're on. There's a lot of people that will not work with you or not like you because of that. But there's more people that will trust you, like you, and work with you simply because of that. Obviously, don't take advantage of that because that falls apart then. But uh, yeah, they will choose you for that. So that's kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
my
Well,
answer
and
to
it's
that.
it's more than just putting like a Christian fish symbol on your business card.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah,
way
yeah,
that you do business and how you handle yourself. And honestly,
yeah.
regardless of whether you're a Christ follower or not, if you're doing your business with integrity, everybody wants to work with you because that's what people are looking for. And
100%.
I think you would affirm that real estate is very, I could maybe say a lot of industries, but especially real estate is very much built on trust. And another, I think, just I love these little tidbits. This is solid stuff. So we got to hope we get some good listeners for this podcast, because another thing you highlighted that I just love is relationships. It's about relationships, and this is a relationship business, which I think is why probably faith fits into that so well.
Right.
So, one other thing I would say before asking another question, because you had mentioned like how you became a realtor and fell in love with it. I had the opposite. I was a realtor when I lived in Minnesota, and that I kind of fell into that because I was a property manager and I got my license, and I'm like, hey, this is cool. I can I'll do some real estate on the side, and then I didn't really like it. So I when I moved to Wisconsin, I put it on ice for a little bit. I thought I might get back, and when I got started restarted my investing business, everyone's like, oh, so are you a realtor? Are you gonna be? I was like, no, I don't want to be a realtor. I want to work with realtors. I want to find people who love being realtors and let them do their job awesomely, and then I'll just do the investing side of things. So anyway, it's not all stories end the same. So that's
And that's
no,
that's the glory and the beauty of real estate too, right? Like you can find there's there's hundreds of different niches that you
yeah,
could line into, and there's even hundreds of different types of realtors you could be. Like when I started, I mentioned I was on a team, so I was just a buyer's agent, and the team I was leveraging, or they were leveraging me, I was leveraging them. I made a lot less income. I was splitting my income significantly with the team,
yeah,
but I got instant tools, resources, access to things that, and a camaraderie, a like-minded individuals and friendships that I built there forever that I now
yeah.
still continue to leverage. And the average realtor in the United States closes 8 transactions a year. And in my first year, I closed 21
Wow.
because I was able to leverage the tools, the resources, some lead generation, but and other things like that of the team to guide me in how to launch quicker, making a little
Yeah,
bit less money per transaction, but doing a whole lot more deals. So like that, some people love that because you can just focus on the sales side and doing the thing. Other people want to be an independent agent and they just want to like do it all themselves, all the paperwork, all the planning, all the structure, and they're lone wolf style. That's fine. Like that same thing transcends outside of the realtor world into investing. You could
yes,
be a syndicator. You could be a property manager. You could be, your own. You could be a rehabber. You could be a buy and hold. You can. There's so many strategies, and it's like what I like to tell people: put your why and the vision of what you want for your lifestyle up front, and then work backwards from there to create it. Right?
yeah.
Because you can do that probably hundreds, if not thousands, of different ways in real estate.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I think why I love real estate, because I like doing different things. I like variety. And so every deal is different. I mean, even if you're buying, house after house, it's
Right.
everyone's structured. And now as I'm getting more into multifamily world, it's like, yeah, every single deal is different. There are some principles that you follow, there's a process, but yeah, it's because you're dealing with people, and every location's different, every tenant is different, everything. So every toilet is different for that matter, right? So, but we try to avoid those, except for when you have to go to the bathroom. But anyway, we're keeping this podcast clean, so we're not going to talk about that. Cool. All right. So tell now. You kind of put these a little bit together, but just share a little bit more about your journey with Jesus in your life. What's that look like for you?
Yeah, great question. So I grew up in a pretty Christian household, very Christian household, which is good and a fantastic thing to be celebrated. And sometimes
Yeah.
people in their testimonies are like, "Oh yeah, that can be good or bad." I think it's great for us. And um, I went to the Community United Methodist Church. That was right by our high school. Liked it, still like that community that's there, and the people that surrounded my youth growing up, and appreciate that, and I'm super grateful. And was confirmed there, and I going to youth group every single week. Um, I went there because like I wanted to learn about Jesus, and I wanted to know more, and I wanted to have a relationship with God, and what does that mean? Maybe not every single day from the very beginning, but pretty quickly, and then it turned into a lot more of like the other people there were just mostly there to like hang out and have good friendship, which is fine. But like I wanted the meat, give me the meat.
Yeah.
Um, and I ended up actually then also going to Life Church. I was invited there by one of the people, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes in high school.
Mhm.
I got started up, and one of my good friends, Alicia Dahlman, invited me to Life Church for their youth group, and also a Bible study that she decided as a high schooler she's going to start up, as watching some Francis Chan messages and like
Yeah.
a study through there through a Francis Chan series. And that was the biggest catalyst to my faith in my junior year of high school. It was that combined with a lot of death in our family
Yeah.
that prompted me to realize I could either run towards God for comfort, or I could run away from Him, pointing fingers, blaming Him for the hurt. I could
Mm.
choose, but I had to choose. You kind of can't really do anything. You had to choose one or the other, right?
Right. Right.
Um, I chose to run towards Him for comfort. I'm so glad I did, and that changed everything, right? And then in that process, experiencing other people about my age that were on fire for God, wanting to know about Him and learn about Him, kind of excited me even more, and to have an experience of like in a youth group too, of like people raising their hands in worship during music and stuff. That was my first experience in that,
Mm.
which then brought me into college, where I was pretty well connected with Crew, Campus Crusade for Christ. Um, and I was also in small groups through InterVarsity, and I was discipled by a guy in Navigators. So I was in all these different communities, right? And being able to be poured in that way. That was even outside of church, which I was normally going to Cross Point, which is now the chapel there in Whitewater. And I guess that's more of the faith story. I was always grew up in that Christian household, but then really made it my own kind of that junior year of high school, and then into college, pursuing it if I want to also be a pastor, or if I also should be and have a calling to be that, right?
Mm.
Um, and then continuing that, we started a small group, young married and engaged couples, that my wife and I led together. I mean, we did Bible studies through Crew and stuff before that, but then during part of that internship at Cross Point at that time was to champion something, pioneer something, which was a small
Mm.
group, which was the first three for people that are engaged, or the first 3 years of marriage. And
Mm.
then beyond that, it turned into the first five. And then turned into the first like 10, and then kind of fizzled out after that when we moved back to the Cedarburg area. We kept going, we kept doing it for about a year,
Wow.
even via Zoom with those people. And I still consider, even though we don't meet anymore, I still consider the people that were going to that group like my core inner circle of
Mm.
people in my life that like I could trust with just about anything, and that are there's something to be said about finding people that are in the same stage of life as you, getting in the same canoe and paddling together, or that are right ahead or right behind you, in both their faith journey, but there's what they're doing in their lives, and paddling together. It's you build those connections that you could never do anywhere else, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's really cool. And so you talked about, what that how that has gone, and I think you even shared, how that okay, let me ask you a little about this, because I think that in the world, I think I've had this struggle at being in ministry my whole life, and then getting really excited about real estate and
Yeah,
what.
yeah, yeah.
So you're praying about being a pastor. You're doing an internship at a church. I know you were a volunteer youth pastor for a number of years. You're leading small groups. I mean, you're doing a lot of ministry stuff that looks like you're going into church ministry work, right? And then you go to real estate. So tell me, I'm started with banking, real estate, but how did, just tell me, internally, that process of how you're did you feel like, oh, I'm selling out, like I was all in for Jesus and now I'm going after money, or how did you deal with that yourself? Because I think I have those struggles. I think a lot of Christians do too when they enter into the
Yeah,
business.
man. Thank you for asking that. That that will probably be the best. This will be the best part of the whole podcast. Is right here,
All
like
right,
this.
so we'll just edit this part and cut the rest out. We'll just
Boom, boom, boom.
yeah.
But yes, the man, the grass is always greener complex in the Christian world
Mm,
is so strong.
mm,
Um, the I'll start with this and say that, and I'll back it up from how I got here. People always think I'm not on staff at a church, so therefore my work isn't as meaningful.
mm,
And then the people at church that are on staff at a church or are pastors, they go, "Gosh, I'm just taking care of the herd of other Christian believers, and I'm just helping them, or maybe just taking a Sunday service. And are they even understanding this? Do they even believe this stuff? Are they taking it out into the world? And I'm not going and reaching people of all nations like I'm told to be. I'm just
mm,
being the shepherd. Why?
okay,
Like I'm not as important and valuable. I'm
mm,
not reaching the unreached and the unchurched. So like you have to identify like wherever I am and whatever season I'm in. It's a very Christianese thing to say, but like whatever season that I am in, I'm called to be God's light and the Holy Spirit to those people where they are at,
yes.
right? So like if I'm in a church on staff position, I'm called to be those like to those people and to help guide them and to help prod them to go to the rest of the world as well. If I'm in the business world, I'm called to be the light in that space and bring God to those people. And you're going to have this special sphere that no one else will ever have.
Mm,
That you're going to interact with on a regular basis, especially in the real estate world, one that's very usually driven by money, to
yeah.
not just only be that, but also to shine that light to those other people. Okay, backing up time. How did I get to that point? So, shortly after graduating, I'm still at the bank, but I'm driving an hour plus every single day for the bank. And I didn't mention this point. On Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm also working with them to work at, so instead of the Madison location on normal, there's a Milwaukee location. And I pulled some strings to work at the Milwaukee locations on Mondays and Tuesdays, which then drove from, it's about an hour drive from Whitewater to Milwaukee, and then about a 30-minute drive up to Cedarburg, where I was teaching the Cedarburg High School marching band on Monday and Tuesday night rehearsals. Would teach there for 2 hours, and then would drive back to Whitewater to my wife and conk out, and then go to the Milwaukee or the Madison location. So I'm doing that, and on top of that, then doing the youth ministry on Wednesday nights. So I would go straight from the Madison location to the Jefferson campus of Cross Point at the time, now the chapel, and would then do the youth ministry with Rosie. And then later on, it turned into we had the three campus locations, different youth ministries. We combined those into one, which we would then take the kids from Jefferson to Whitewater, and we would haul them there with the volunteer leaders, drive them back to Jefferson, and then I would drive back to Fort Atkinson, and that'd be my day. Um, It was a lot, and that was actually what's interesting. I'm trying to give all this background context because I was in different stages in different areas of church leadership and not, right? So like it was some as a volunteer leader, but then when we were doing the youth ministry, that was a paid staff position. Not a lot, not a lot, but it was a staff position, right?
Yeah.
So I felt that, and then went to staff meetings and all this
Mm,
other stuff, and we went to a conference, a retreat, and that was the big turning point of one of the breakout sessions that we were there.
mm.
Shortly before that retreat, about a week before or so, I was so tired and exhausted from the working and the um, taking doing all that stuff and taking my island realtor course in the background while getting the upper ready for renting out. I was so tired, and I was driving um, to work to Madison on the Beltline. We were in stop and go traffic, and I fell asleep while I was driving. So, but I wasn't. Honestly, that was a God moment of
Mm,
like that God protected me because there was about a 30 to 40-minute drive time that if I would have fallen asleep when I was driving, probably would have died, right? Because it was back roads going from Fort Atkinson to Madison,
yeah,
west side of Madison. So I took the whole Beltline.
yeah,
And but then that was while I was going on the Beltline stop and go traffic for rush hour, and I was falling asleep. I wasn't like completely zonked, but then like fell asleep and slightly rear-ended the person in front of me. There was like basically no damage because like I like it was one of those things that like you were nodding and I like got up and was like oh yeah oh, and I like was braking as it happened, so it barely touched the other person's bumper, but still got in an accident for that. Um, and that was a wake up moment of like, man, like you're going a little too hard.
That was
Um,
literally like a moment.
yeah, literally, not good one. But that was a little bit of a wake up moment of like you're going a little too hard. You need to figure some stuff out and get a little bit less on your plate. But on top of that, um, that was a triggering moment of me thinking that. But then going into the retreat, the conference, there was a breakout session about the most Christianese way that you could put it, right? It was like maximizing the kingdom impact for the future difference of the God leaders of whatever. It was basically God in business. Okay. And they had a panel of like
Yeah.
four different people, three or four people.
Mm,
One was like an executive at Target
mm,
and was not on staff at a church. One ran a nonprofit, a Christian nonprofit. I believe it was the Round Table or Stone Table, something like that.
mm,
I'm still connected with him on LinkedIn, but he ran a nonprofit, but wasn't on staff at a church. Another person was an elder at church and ran their own business, was an entrepreneur. One person was also like I believe was a on staff at a church and had a full time job. So
mm,
you got a smattering of all these different outlooks, and the super short summary from that really changed my life was that it was okay to be in the workplace, and even more than that, it was okay to want to be in the workplace. It
mm,
was okay to want to be in the field,
yeah,
and like I would always have like this, desire to know God more, to relate to Him more. But like a lot of the times, it feels like if I'm not a pastor and my job isn't to tell people about Jesus, it's not enough
mm,
because like then what is my job? My job's just whatever, and it's keeping me from telling more people about God. That's one perspective, right? And then like when I saw that panel of like, oh my gosh, like these people, if your desire and the calling that God has for you is to be an entrepreneur or to do investing or to do whatever, like be in the workplace or be making money this way or whatever, like in a secular
mhm,
manner, right? You can be used so much, A, both through what you're doing, and B, if you become successful at it, the fruits that you then have, and even not just with the money, but the influence and the ability to teach others and guide others. Like you have so much responsibility and so much of an impact and influence
yeah,
that people in the church would not have, right? So being able to take that, understand it from that conference changed my life because I
yeah,
was able to then not just take a risk and do it for me to grow in this real estate passion or this the desire that I had, but to take it and also mold it for God, just like the panel of other people that I've seen.
Yeah.
I don't need to necessarily only be on staff. So then I had that conversation with the pastor, being like, "Hey, I think I might be called into doing the real estate full time," which was a really hard transition. We both moved, so it made it a little easier, honestly. If we stayed in the same location, it would have been a little harder to say I'm stopping and staying and put.
Right.
But we moved at the time back to Cedarburg, and I was in, full time real estate at the time. I made the segue and the switch. So
Hi, Owen Cooper here with Rock Solid Investments. Sorry to interrupt this amazing conversation that's going on, but I did want to mention that if you are interested in investing with my company, or even just curious about it, please go to my website, rocksolidinvestments.com, ROC solidinvestments.com. You can sign up for newsletters, you can book a time to talk with me, and we can talk more about what that investing journey would look like for you. So glad you're part of this podcast. And now let's get back to the conversation.
there you go.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool. So I have a friend of ours from church. She's on staff, very part time with InterVarsity, one of the ministries that you are involved with. But she also works at a medical clinic. And I remember asking her a similar question, and I have the same story. So I'm gonna share. She at work, she in the medical clinic, she has all these opportunities to talk about what she's doing in InterVarsity, and it's like she can talk about her ministry and what God's doing. And then in InterVarsity, when she's working with college students, she's talking about the ministry opportunity she has in the workplace and just be able to really affirm that. So that's really cool. And I've seen in my world, so when I'm, with my working with tent makers or in the church, I'm talking about real estate investing all the time because it's exciting to me, and I'm like, I love it, and you should do it, and yeah, I'm looking for investors, and then when I'm talking with other real estate investors, and there's a network that I'm a part of, and it's great. I have so many God conversations, and
Yeah.
I'm finding other believers, but even people that aren't believers, I'm like, hey, this is what I want to do, or this is what's motivating me, and like I said, we said earlier in this conversation, even the people they're like, that's really cool, or that's great, or they're like, how can I help you with that? Even though they're not really necessarily aligned with the faith part, they see like I'm trying to do good things for people, and they get excited about that. So it's I don't know. I think it's really cool to see those things interact, and your story. I just yeah, that you're right. That was a great question, and I'm glad I asked. That was a great
Oh,
answer.
good job, Owen. Pat myself on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
back.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So it wasn't even on my list of questions, but it just was fitting in there. So but this follow up question, if you can think of a specific incident, would be awesome. But have you seen a time where your Christ centered values um, aligned with your real estate life? And, like, I know you have, but like if you have that, it's an instance that comes to mind.
I have a couple I'm thinking of. Is there any particular thing that you're thinking of that you're wanting? Like, you mean like how I exemplify those values in my business, or are you saying how having those values in the workplace is different or makes us set apart? Like,
Ooh,
what's your aim
wow.
or your
Can
goal for
you
that?
answer? Can you answer both? Can you answer both of them?
Answer both. Yes, I can.
Those are both
One,
great.
one. In the workplace, I'll start with the second one. In the workplace, like, so the Bible really tells us to live counterculturally, and like the life of Jesus was super countercultural.
Hmm.
Um, and the culture in the real estate sales side of thing is always get as many as you can, leverage so that you can focus only on income producing activity. You still want to focus on that because that is how you can eat, right?
Right.
Um, but beyond that, like, how can I serve these people really well and show them the love of Jesus in that process, regardless of price point, is really, really important and countercultural. So that's
Hmm.
one thing. And
Yeah.
then the other, as more of an example, um, as you know, forgiveness is an ongoing thing where sometimes you think you're completely done and sometimes you don't. Like
Mm,
and there are times in my life where there's been so many people that have just taken advantage of me, screwed me over, decided that I don't, either intentionally or unintentionally, right? And digging up that root of unforgiveness can be
mm,
so difficult. And sometimes you think it's done, and sometimes it's not. Like there was one transaction that I was working with people to the day. I calculated it out. 5 months, 8 a.m. Saturdays, almost every single weekend, and they were transitioning from living in Whitefish Bay to Cedarburg. About $500,000 house there, $500,000 house on the other side, and the first time we met, I showed them around and I got on the phone with them and I gave them a tour of all of Cedarburg, of every neighborhood. We were on the phone, they were behind me, and I was leading them and say, so this is Cedar Point neighborhood. This is Topview Trails. This is Prairie View. These are going to be a little more expensive. These are the places that you have 3 kids. Cool. So like this would probably be a pretty good spot for walkability to both downtown and school. These homes are about built in the early 2000s. This one's built in like the 2010s, so like you're going to have a little bit less maintenance. These ones are built in the late 1800s, early 1900s. You have incredible historic charm of downtown Cedarburg, but you're probably going to have a lot more maintenance, so just keep that in mind. And we got done. We parked at where we first started at the first showing, and the guy, ooh, what was that?
I don't know. I didn't do it.
Cool.
But hey,
Fireworks. We
congratulations.
parked at where we had our first showing. That was fun. And
Yeah.
they he looked at me in my eyes, deeply in my eyes. I remember, Jacob, you are our guy. We are so impressed. You did such a good job. We cannot wait to work with you. You're incredible. We've never had experience like this before. Like he went out of his way to make that connection, right?
Yeah.
Um, 5 months of time, and in our business, there's what's called a buyer agency agreement or buyer broker agreement, where it's simply saying that you're committing to work with me and I'm committing to work with you. And in exchange, I can give advice on things like price and condition of the property. Things with Owen, when I first explained that to him too, you can edit it so that it's non-exclusive, so you can work with other people if they procure other deals. But in most situations, it's exclusive. So we had this relationship, and I've serviced them way above and beyond normal expectations. And I show the missus a property in the morning on Saturday. Mister is out golfing, and he goes to the open house later and goes to them and says, "We do want this one. If I agreed to list my house with you, you write it on your own property here, and I cut out my other agent. How much could you discount the commission on the sale of my house in Whitefish Bay?" And I follow up this still the same day. I'm like, "You really loved it, Mrs. Seller or Mrs. Buyer. You know, did Mr. Buyer, want to take it through?" And got completely ghosted. Like not another
Mm,
message.
mm,
Um, Found out it goes under contract. I continue to follow up with them on a regular weekly basis, per I usually do. Have the text communication chain, all that good stuff, and then it closes, and I look on the tax records, and it's them who bought the property, which in our world is procuring cause, and I could pursue them that I technically earned all the commission. We negotiated something out with the agent, so it had to get drawn out to that extent. And I still got somewhat taken care of with some sort of commission, but not to the point of what I technically really earned. Um, but needless to say, that was a spot of having to forgive.
mm,
And there's another situation in my business too that was, someone that, I looked up to that kind of turned around on me and just really surprised me with their actions. And I even tried to, get all the forgiveness out, and I even they probably threw this in the trash right away, but even delivered my Thanksgiving pie to my clients. I still delivered it to them.
mm,
um, and knocked on their door and was like, "Hey, I know things didn't quite work out between us, and this year, but still want to say I'm at least grateful for the time that we spent together, working together this year." As kind of like an tangible act for me to like not just say it to myself, "I forgive you," but also to like give it to them. Um, and most of the time, I'd say the forgiveness is still there, but sometimes the unforgiveness can creep back in and get a little salty, especially since it's on the same street as my in-laws. So
Mhm.
they can be a little bit of a
Awesome.
trial there.
Right.
But anyway, that's the really
Yeah.
long version. I like to tell stories to get my point across.
Yeah.
I
No,
was
that's
saying in this business, forgiveness is a big thing because there will be times that people either on purpose screw you over or will unintentionally not know that they hurt you by either working with another agent or going with maybe in a real estate investing world, right? Maybe you're working with a wholesaler, right? That usually sends you deals, send it to someone else, or vice
mm,
versa. You are a wholesaler, right? And then you bring someone a deal, and then they just turn around on you, go to the seller directly, cut you out of the deal. There's stuff like that'll happen all the time, and you got to pick yourself up, try to forgive them the best they can, work on that forgiveness, and then also continue on because that will happen. You have to swallow the pill. It's a hard to swallow pill, and then just get up. The people that are still doing this business and are succeeding and doing well are the ones that not win every time, but they get up more often and they work and do more volume and they get up quicker from their failures and from the times they get, stepped on.
yeah. 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 Amen. Man, I feel like that full disclosure moment you're describing, like that happened. You showed me a deal from a wholesaler. Remember? You have to remember. And you were working on that.
That
I'm like, are you telling this story about me?
was
And
not from you, but
And like, no, no, I didn't throw your pie in the trash. So that was like, no, it wasn't me. But like that sense of thing. And then like there was no commissions, and the only way the deal worked, it was like seller fine. It was super weird and awkward. And then I remember next time I saw you, and it was like I was kind of sheepish, and I mean I owned it. I was like, yeah, Jacob, and you were so gracious, and you're like. Oh, and we're both learning, like, and it was good. And the only thing I could make up for it was like, hey, when I sell it, like, you're gonna be got the commission. So you did get some money from that. Just took like a year later, but
So that people actually know what happened, there was a deal that I brought over to Owen, that was on our ARIA website or whatever, and it was off market wholesaling transaction, something like that. Or I know they actually still had it on market, I think. And I'm like, hey, you should check this out. And then you bought it, didn't use me, totally cool, whatever, it happened. But then ended up listing it with me after the sale,
yeah.
and it's okay, we're still friends.
But it might have. I mean, it was a really weird deal. Like I technically
Good luck to
rented
you.
it well while I was rehabbing it, and then so I didn't actually buy it, and that was a mess too, which you helped me resolve. And my integrity was questioned, and there was a whole.
I didn't question it. I
Well,
think
not you, not
you
but you. No, just the other, like the broker, not the broker, like the financing and the deal, and
oh, for real? They did? Oh, wow. I didn't
oh
know
yeah,
that part.
there was a lot of questions because the guy was an older gentleman, and they thought I
Oh.
was taking advantage of him. So it was a closing company. They like called me and
Mhm.
they interviewed, and they interviewed him, and then they had to get like a written statement of like my interactions with him, and they talked to the wholesaler to verify that it was like. I was like, man, this is serious, and he was actually a believer too. So he was like happy that I did it. But anyway, that's the thing where you gotta hold on to your faith and live with integrity, because there's these. Yeah, that was kind of a scary moment for me, and yeah, you were kind of in the middle of that, whether you knew it or not. Uh, so yeah, anyway, it worked out fine, and God is still good, so that's pretty awesome. Um, so man, you've told me some awesome stories, really great. So this is part of my, I think my desire with this podcast is there's people in the real estate world, and I hope they're inspired by the kind of faith things we're talking about, and people in the faith world that maybe don't really never thought about investing, but they just either they like you or me, and so they want to hear what we have to say, and that's fine. But you and I think are both pretty sold out in investing in real estate and the value of it. So if there's someone like that that's listening, who's someone who's maybe considering investing in real estate or hearing us talking, like, wow, that sounds interesting, and they haven't done anything yet, what would you say to them?
A few things. One, if you listen to any Bigger Pockets anything, you probably heard of the triangle, the three things needed to get a deal done: time, money, knowledge.
Yeah,
If you don't have any of those, work on one. So you most likely have one or the other. Like people who have time usually don't have money, and the people that have money usually don't have the time.
yeah,
So if you got the time, use that to get the knowledge, and that knowledge can either be, it should be, both from traditional education, like books, classes, whatever. Here's a plug: the Madison RIA, which is now Wisco RIA, but it's like a subsidiary of that. They have a blueprint series class.
Hmm.
It was like $100 or $200 if you remember. It's less expensive. It was worth every penny because it wasn't just some hype up guru, whatever. It was go through your local RIA, especially if they have something, taught by the guy who's doing it in the RIA, who they also had an opportunity, if you wanted to add on some coaching for the first couple of deals or whatever, you split it with that person. You can do that if your RIA offers it, cool. But I was able to learn firsthand, get the knowledge, which also helped me with my realtor work. But it then enables you to either take action, do it yourself, or align with someone and learn from them as you're going through it with them. So like,
Yeah.
you don't have that money yet, do the time and the knowledge, and then partner with someone who does have the money and go. And like realize that setting your goals, how will you get there? And the answer is most likely not by yourself. So another hard to swallow pill, just like learn with and from someone else first that can educate you on all of that, partner with them and make it happen. Like, so for me, in my investing journey, in my real estate journey, like it always starts with educating and educate. Um, and when I say that, you should take both from the traditional side and doing, right?
Right.
So you
Right.
can either do by just like rip off the band-aid and figure it out yourself, go buy a property and be done with it and like just hard knocks it. Or you can again partner, have a coach and get in the trenches and do it. Or pick one of the facets and just learn in that department and then hop into the next. So for example, maybe you just work for a property management company for a little bit of time, or you work as a bird dog to find deals, or you work as just a wholesaler. Focus on one thing, or you partner in a deal with someone. Do one.
Yeah.
Don't be distracted by shiny object syndrome and dabble in all of them. Just do one. Do a lot of it, and then you'll grow in that process, and you'll be able to kind of cross pollinate to the next thing and the next thing. But then those skills, knowledge, and ability, they stack. So don't have the analysis paralysis of only doing the book educating. Do that alongside of the doing,
Yeah.
and then that's how you'll grow.
Wow. That's, if someone just took your advice right there, they would save tons of money and time and heartache.
Think
It's really
think think
cool.
about this. Think about this, right? I am a huge advocate for going to college. I could not the amount that I grow and that people grow, they're not just from your knowledge, but from your growth as a human being, the connections. Probably half of my deals have been from people from college.
Mhm.
Um, but now that we know that I'm pro college, um, how much do you spend on a college tuition? How many thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars? So many people are worried about, if I partner with someone and I split the deal, man, is it worth my time? You are getting paid. Maybe you lose, and here's the other thing. Maybe you lose some money on your first deal,
Right.
or something like that. That's your education. That's your college education. You spent what, $40,000 to get that degree. I again pro college. I believe that's great. Good for you. You lose $2,000 on a deal because you held it too long, or your like your holding costs were too big. Oh man, I'm so embarrassed. I'm ashamed. You just learned how to do the thing. That was your education. Or
Yeah.
I only made $5,000 instead of 10 on this flip because I split it with someone. I could have made 10 grand. Okay. Would you have made more mistakes? Would you have not been able to grow more? That was your education cost. Like
Yeah.
consider, obviously you have an opportunity cost of doing this stuff, but your education cost of just doing it, going out and doing the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. There's a couple times where I've gotten coaching in real estate. When I started my business 4 years ago, I was part of a coaching group, and now that I'm trying to get more into multifamily, I joined another coaching group focused on that because I think actually one of the way that one of my mentors talked about is that you're what you're paying for in the coaching, you're paying for time. Because yeah, you can just figure it out on your own, And I would also mention heartache, but you
Yeah,
can figure it on your own, but it just takes longer, but you can accelerate your learning if you get around people who know what they're doing and learn from them. So it's like, and that again is a principle that applies way beyond real estate investing. That's
like
a life
like a
principle.
tangible thing, because a lot of the stuff we've been talking about here has been like mindset and other things and bringing faith into it, but a tangible thing like that I
Yeah.
learned right from that Blueprint series class.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not as big into the investment space. I have one duplex owner occupied in Fort Atkinson and another duplex I'm owner occupying here in Cedarburg, right? So like I help other investors more than I even do the investing myself. But I learned if you get a rehab loan as well, just from the class, and then you end up a lot of people and they just figure it out on their own. They'll just pay out all the contractors themselves and they pay as they go and they do it. You can have a title company, or some construction loans require you have a title company that you pay a few $100s for to disperse the funds on a draw system so that you're not the bad guy saying if the job is done or not. The title
Mhm.
company, they come walk in, they say, yes, the job is at 50% completion. You now get your 50% contractor. Or they go, it's now fully completed. We are now dispersing all the funds. So you don't have to be the guy. For a couple $100, is removing you from being that, and also like holds the feet to the fire of the contractor that is doing the work and saying, are you actually going to get it done? That's one tangible thing. Like, and that's just like one out of the hundreds of things that I learned there that like you would learn if you either a partner with someone or b like educate while doing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's gold. So, man, there's already so much good stuff that people are going to get from this. So, and they will find us eventually. So, as we start to grow, a little bit of you know time in that, and that I think actually I'm another thing along with this podcast that I'm starting. I just started this morning. I'm trying to do like every other week, like just a investing thought of the week, and just a quick little video, and I did recorded my first one, and the theme for that one was just begin. Because like you just kind of like you said, you can do analysis paralysis, you can study all this stuff, but you got to like start somewhere. Like you said, if learn something or take some time
Right.
or take money, right? So um yeah, and that's actually part of like the value that I'm hoping to create for people is this opportunity to help accelerate their learning, even from listening to this and other things that I'm trying to get out there and put out there for people. Um, and I feel like I used to sell myself short. Like I feel like I don't know a lot or I haven't done a ton of deals, but I realized like actually I've learned a lot, and so I can help people with that. And also like if you know talk about the time, money, and education. So, like, if you're someone in that category where I've got money, but I don't know what to do with it, and I don't have time to figure it out, like, come, be one of my investors. Come do
Right.
that and rely on that, and let's build that relationship and trust and grow it. So, very cool. Okay, I feel like okay, you've hit on that. This is, I think this is a question. This is just a general life question that I want to kind of end with as we start to wrap up. Just tell me. Oh, I want to talk shop a little bit too. So,
Yeah, sure.
um, but first, what's something that's been exciting or interesting in your life recently?
Mhm. um we just had our first baby girl, so her
Yeah.
name is Noelle, and she is now almost 8 months old, which is crazy.
Yes.
um Yeah, she's amazing. She's so good. She like sleeps through the night and is just a really good baby. So we're very, very blessed with her. And on the professional side of things, I just rebranded yesterday from the Jacob Sheets Real Estate team to Provision Properties,
Oh,
um,
it's down
which,
there.
right, yeah, which is like from the 5 years I've been in business, and the last year and a half or 2 years have been as the Jacob Sheets Real Estate team. Like, I want it to be more of the focus less on me. Not just
Mm,
of me doing it, but, like, my name out of it a little bit more, and more of, like, the focusing on the provision that God has given us, has
mhm,
given us income, has given us opportunity, has given us business, but is also, like, for the other pillars of my business, which you can go on my social or reach out to me to go through all of them so I don't go through the whole thing. Um, and also the provision that we can give to other people as we serve them. They can experience the love and the compassion of Jesus, the sacrifice of Him.
mm,
And also, like, even in the investing side, creating generational wealth, the provision in that, while also providing a quality experience and locate and a place to live for the tenants that we're living in too. Because it's easy to be like, oh yeah, you're making all the money, and whoa, it's like that's you should be giving it all away. I understand, like I can then create generational wealth through doing this, and then also give someone a good place to live in the process, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the idea of provision properties in that.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love well thought out names. I also I'll just talk quick. Rock Solid for mine. It's spelled ROC, and
Yeah,
people are like,
yeah,
oh, weird. One, it's easier to get a website because everyone spells ROCK. Rock Solid is really common, but ROC is not. So, but that's not why I did it. Honoring my grandfather.
yeah.
So his name was Robert Owen Cooper. So that was his initials, and also it's an acronym for me that I just remind. It's resting on Christ. So I want my business to be founded in my faith and on Jesus Christ, the solid rock. And then also it's unique in that it's spelled differently. I like to be unique, but also it's my initials, so it's personal. Because my initials, I was named after my grandpa. I'm Owen Robert. He was Robert Owen, so it's just my initials in a different order. Um, so I really like that, um, and this is something I'm growing towards. I haven't developed yet, but it is in my literally a plan on my wall. If you can see over here, is to create what I'm calling a rock solid foundation, to create like scholarship opportunities for my tenants as they go through, so they can increase their life through better education or better opportunities or spiritual growth. Right, these different things for them and their families and their kids. So I'm very like part of that is what motivates me to keep driving towards that. So I love uh, your kind of move away from I don't know. I think name recognition is really big for realtors, and that like name and face is everywhere, and that's not bad, right? People need to know you, but I love your name and your explanation of it too. I
Thank
would
you.
also say that you do a phenomenal job of posting the cutest baby pictures ever on your, I think, Instagram, Facebook, I don't know, whatever it's on, but um, yeah, so that's pretty cool. So you should probably tell people like because they're going to want to talk to you, and I hope you get business out of this, by the way. Um, so tell like how can they find you on social media stuff?
Yeah. So all over again, it'll either be Jacob Sheets or Provision Properties. You can look up on the main ones I live in. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube are my biggest ones, but then of course are also on Instagram as well in bigger pockets. Best way to reach out to me would either be that contact information that are on those platforms. It's going to be the quickest way. And as a reminder, like so for Provision Properties, where focus is on Wisconsin real estate, and the four pillars are media, sales, referrals, and investing. So the media, just by watching the content, consuming the content on YouTube primarily, that's where this next year I'm going to be putting out lots of neighborhood tours starting
Mm,
locally for me. And the goal is to expand across all of the state, so that becoming kind of this like really high value add um, library of neighborhoods that people could then help their search and where they want to live. So that's going to be that. And with like market updates, I do a monthly market update for the Milwaukee Metro. In the future, I'm going to also expand to Wisconsin market updates. So it's kind of all encompassing. So
nice.
just consuming the media, just subscribing, that is one way. Two, sales. I have my core team, which is a team of agents. It's me and one other one. I'm announcing who that is on Friday. Um, of people that I am working with every single day, a little bit more locally, and mentoring, growing up completely. And then also beyond the core team, there's another, which again you'll see in the social media, but like the Provision Properties agent affiliates and Wolfpack members that are kind of like the next rungs outside of that core team. If you want to become affiliated with me, not just in Wisconsin, but anywhere in the United States, or even there's a couple like I think 10 other countries that EXP Realty is in, you can reach out to me. And if you then have me as a sponsor, I have a bunch of other resources and tools into the company that then you can use and be affiliated with me without having to necessarily be physically located on my core team. Okay,
Mm,
that's sales. The third
nice.
one is referrals in the entire state of Wisconsin as you're consuming the media or you're reaching out. And I'm smart enough and I am humble enough. Ooh, nice. Good combo there. No, I'm smart and humble enough to know that like I can't take on every single client in every single location in Wisconsin, and I'm not naive enough, right, um, to believe that. I've created an entire website this last year, complete with video bios and calendar links to reach out to my preferred realtor referral partners in the entire state of Wisconsin.
Mm.
The website is yourwisconsinrealtors.com, which
Wow.
if you just go to the media, it'll be the first link on the pinned comment and in the description of all the neighborhood tours and all the other stuff going forward for my media.
Wow.
You can either click on that or just type in yourwisconsinrealtors.com, check that out where it's at. Um, and if you book an appointment directly through there, or you reach out to me first and then refer you to that agent partner, I get a referral fee in the process. So like I'm still financially benefiting, but at the same time, it's a win-win-win. I get a referral, that person gets new business, and that person that's working with them, the client, gets really guaranteed good people to actually work with. Because these are people I've literally handpicked. People have reached out to me beyond this, but like I'm like only people that work like me, I know, like, and trust, that is truly like my people that are on that website. The last one is investing, which we just spent this whole time talking about. It's a little bit smaller than me, just as 2 properties now. But as I continue to grow, it's going to take those proceeds from those first 3 pillars and reinvest it into the investing side of things as well. Um, and yeah, that's Provision Properties.
That's beautiful. So for anyone listening, I couldn't recommend Jacob enough. That's why we're talking now and why I continue to work with him. So and I love the fact, even with referrals. I mean, you've done that. I've like, hey Jacob, like,
Yep.
can you look at this one? You're like, I can't do it, but this guy will work with you, and it's been great. So I love that, and I think the real estate industry will be better the bigger you get. So I
Great.
love it. It's really cool. All right, so let me ask you just a shop question here, because the just kind of rolled out, I think in November, this 5% down option for owner occupied, and I'm trying to get my kids who are over 18 into properties. So what do you know about that? Have you studied that at all? And specifically, I need like income requirements, because my kids don't make a lot of money.
Good question. So yeah, that's for conventional loans, your Fannie Freddie products. That was like that before, actually. They were able to, a while back, you could do a 5% down owner occupied multifamily, 2 to 4 unit, I believe.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and now it's back to that, which is fantastic. Keep in mind also that it is a great option. And, as far as for interest rates and as far as for down payments and as far as, closing costs, it's a good option. Keep in mind, your FHA loan can also do that as a 3.5% down still for multifamily too. So
Wow.
it's another option that is available. Um, as far as what the current requirements are, you would definitely, like, obviously reach out to a realtor, reach out to us first, and your lender partner to see what that is. I have a whole sheet of lender partners that I use depending on what the goal is and the vision, because it's all different for different people.
Wow.
But yes, they currently now have, that's the conventional loans, 5% down, owner occupied multifamily. But also, if it's your first time buyer, you haven't used an FHA loan in the past, and you qualify for income reasons and restrictions and stuff like that, you can go the FHA route as well for 3.5% down.
That's awesome. Well, as I said, you send me these things like multifamily. Obviously, I'm focused on more, and now my like you're sending emails to my kids, and so we just got one in Whitewater. That's we can talk about more later offline, but it was real fascinating, and I'm already like exploring how to do it. My daughter's overwhelmed. She's like, "How does this work?" I'm like, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out."
Where does it go?
Anyway, I got lots of kids, so I just got to find one of them to do the deal for me. So anyway, so yeah, hopefully we'll explore that a little bit more. But this has been, I had sort of when I started this idea of a podcast in my mind, you were clearly the first person I wanted to contact, but I was like, I think it's cool. I think it'll work. I think it'll add value to people. But I can tell you this last hour that we spent here, like I've learned things, like there's been a ton of value, and now I'm super motivated to grow the audience because this has been so good. And if every episode is as good as this one, this will be the best podcast in the world. How's
Wow,
that?
that's a
Yeah,
statement.
I know. Isn't it crazy?
And
And
anything
then
I can ever do to help, you just let me know.
yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. So thank you so much for being my kind of guinea pig, but this is even way better beyond that. I feel like the technology worked well for us. assuming it all recorded. Otherwise, we but it's awesome. And yeah, so thank you, Jacob, for the time. I know that that as you're growing, you have a big business. That time is valuable as well as with your family. So I appreciate that, and I just appreciate your friendship and love working with you. So let's keep doing it.
Likewise, excuse me. Likewise, Owen, I appreciate you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Anyone who is listening that does want to work with Owen, right, for investing, reach out to him. And then also for myself, anything Wisconsin real estate, even a quick question or whatever, reach out to me as well. And I'm excited to help serve you guys. Again, thank you so much. And I can't wait to see this podcast.
Thanks for joining us with another episode of Faith Filled Investing.